All right, let's talk about something real. Today we're going to get into Moran's book, Why We're Getting Poor, because it tackles this feeling that so many of us have, that you're running faster and faster on a treadmill, but you're not actually going anywhere. Let's unpack it.
I mean, that question says it all, right? It's this deep, gnawing anxiety that no matter how hard you work or how much you hustle, the finish line just keeps getting pushed back. Well, this book argues that's not just a feeling you're imagining. Nope, it's a real consequence of the economic system we're all a part of. You know, the pandemic really put a giant magnifying glass on this. All of a sudden, we're all cheering for our essential workers, nurses, grocery clerks, delivery drivers. We call them heroes. But there's this huge disconnect, this massive gap between how vital their jobs are and what they get paid. And that disconnect? That's our entry point for busting some of the biggest myths about how our economy really works.
Okay, so let's start with myth number one, and it's a big one. It's the idea that the economy is like the weather. You know, it's just this powerful, uncontrollable force that just happens to us, and all we can do is hope for sunny days.
I mean, just think about how we talk about it. We say the economy is healthy, or sluggish, or recovering. It sounds like we're talking about a plant or an animal, something totally separate from us. But the book says that's a really dangerous way to think, because it makes us feel completely powerless to change a thing.
To really get this, we got to go way back. See, capitalism wasn't just inevitable. It didn't just pop up out of nowhere. It was born because a specific set of rules changed in the English countryside centuries ago. Lords used to just take grain from peasants by force, but then the rules changed. They couldn't do that anymore, so they had to figure out how to make their land more productive to get ahead. And just like that, food, the most basic thing we need to survive, was now part of the market. The big takeaway here, the economy isn't some force of nature. It's a system built on man-made decisions.
And hey, if the economy is just a set of rules, that leads us right into myth number 2, this idea that billionaires' fortunes are basically just a scoreboard for how much good they've done for the world. Before we even get into the how, we have to wrap our heads around the scale of this. Seriously, a million and a billion. They sound kind of similar in conversation, but they are not in the same universe. If you counted one number every second, you'd hit a million in about 12 days. To get to a billion, it would take you over 31 years. That's not just more money, it's a totally different kind of power.
And look, being worried about this kind of concentrated power is nothing new. This quote is from 1890. Senator Sherman was warning about these autocrats of trade who could corner a market and set any price they wanted. And it's kind of wild how his warnings about railroad and oil tycoons sound like they could have been written yesterday about some of today's tech giants. So how does this kind of wealth actually get built? Well, the book argues it's less about creating value and a lot more about extracting value. There's a playbook. First, you get rid of the competition. Think about how Amazon sold things at a loss to drive Diapers.com out of business and then buy them. Next, you control the platform, the digital land that everybody else has to build on. And finally, use the legal system, like patents, not just to protect one cool invention, but to build a wall around the entire market so no one else can even get in. At the end of the day, it's less about building a better mousetrap and more about owning the entire mousetrap industry.
And all of that brings us to our third myth. And this one's personal. It's the whole pull yourself up by your bootstraps idea, that where you end up in the economy is 100% a reflection of your own individual choices and hard work.
This comic just nails it. It's called Survivorship bias. We hear the amazing story of the one college dropout who made billions, but we never hear from the other 99,000 who also dropped out and are now struggling. Because we only see the winners, we get this completely warped idea of what the odds really are. We forget just how much of a role plain old luck and circumstance play in everything. You've probably heard of the marshmallow test, right? The classic story was that the kids who could wait for the second marshmallow had more self-control, and that's why they'd be more successful. It basically frames poverty as a personal flaw. But newer research totally flips that idea on its head. Turns out, for a kid growing up in an unstable home where promises are often broken, waiting is a bad bet. That second marshmallow might never show up, so grabbing the one you can get now isn't a lack of self-control, it's a completely rational survival strategy based on your life experience. Poverty isn't caused by impatience, it's the other way around.
So, if the economy isn't some law of nature, and if our success isn't just about us alone, what does that leave us with? Well, it leaves us with something incredibly powerful. The idea that all these economic rules we live by, they were made up by people. And anything that was made by people can be unmade. It can be rewritten.
Let's look at a super clear example of this in action. Pro soccer in Europe.
In England's Premier League, teams are mostly owned by huge investors. The focus is on the customer, and the result is insane salaries for players and ticket prices that are through the roof. But then you look at Germany. They have this 50+1 rule, which means the fans always own the majority of their own club. The focus completely shifts to the community and the fan experience. And the result? German soccer has some of the lowest ticket prices and the highest attendance in the world. It's the exact same game, but they're playing by a different set of rules, and it creates a completely different world.
And that's really the heart of it all. This is such an empowering way to see things. Once you realize the economy isn't like gravity, it's more like the rules of a game. It changes everything. We go from feeling like victims of the economy to realizing we could actually be the architects of a new one. So that's the final thought I want to leave you with. We've seen how these rules about property, competition, and who owns what literally shape our lives. If you had the power to change just one of those rules, what would it be? Where would you even start?